child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter.
I love swiping. Love it. Swipe, swipe, swipe. No, 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 no. It's a little bit addictive. The power, the position. A haughty Roman emperor in the Colosseum deciding the fate of the gorgeous gladiatress with a capricious flick of his wrist. Thumbs down to the lions. No, no, thumbs down, swipe, no. How the fuck did I get here? I hate swiping. I hate the whole thing. It's so depressing, demeaning, degrading, diminishing. Makes me feel like a sexist pig, like Donald Trump reaching out and grabbing a reprehensible, superficial, objectifying. How the hell did I get here? Well, my marriage was going to hell in a handbasket or a shopping cart or maybe one of those huge dumpsters that they put houses or buildings in after they've been torn down with a bulldozer or imploded with carefully placed explosive charges. But still, I didn't go online. My friend did. Our friend did. She was single. We were married, and we set up a Match.com account for her. I took the photo and uploaded it, and we all sat around and sipped Chardonnay and wrote her profile and had a giggle and came up with her screen name, a handle that people use on these dating sites. In this case, it was For Jenny, because we were making the account for her, and that was her name. And we followed along as she liked people and chatted people up and dodged the creeps and made dates and went on some dates, and it all seemed pretty kind of awesome and hopeful. And I wanted to try it, but I was still married. And in that there aforementioned handbasket from hell. But I dreamed and I dreamed and I dreamed of something else, right or wrong. Jimmy Carter lusted in his heart but did not act on it. Why not me? But with pictures and profiles and ages and distances away from my current location and information like when they were last online and what they're looking for in a man, and even a search engine where you could set the criteria and only see brown-eyed, non-religious, curvy, or a little bit extra tennis-playing women within 10 miles of Woodstock, New York between the ages of 40 and 60, which is what I did after everyone had gone to bed at midnight, several midnights. I would sneak onto For Jenny's Match.com account and I would change her search criteria to my own, and I would look and look and look at all the available women out there, all of them with their own stories and their own hurts and their own baggage and hopes and dreams, and I would pass by the ones with multiple pictures of their big tits, because really? Is that what you're selling? And I would pass by the ones with photos, obviously, from a fashion shoot that they had recently been in, and I would pass by the ones that looked like Natalie Wood or Christy Brinkley or even Marissa Tomei. And maybe once in a blue moon on those midnight excursions deep into my surreptitious search, I would find one that stopped me in my tracks. And I would think, oh my, look at her. She looks so reasonable. Because that was it for me. I just wanted somebody reasonable, able to be reasoned with. It's not as common as it sounds for men or women or couples. And I came to think of it, the reasonableness, the ability to communicate and listen and bend one's preconceived notions toward the magnetic poles of logic and common sense. I came to think of this as a form of chemistry between people, sort of a special pheromone, if you will, that allowed two people, if it was there in sympathetic degrees in both of them, to reason with each other. Anyway, it's what I wanted. Oh, did I want that? And Match.com seemed to have it a little bit, enough. I could just tell just by looking at someone's picture and reading their profile exactly how reasonable they were and would be. Or so I thought. Of course, that's an inherent problem with being romantic. Projection, the projection of your hopes and dreams and expectations onto someone else. Idealizing. Which is problematic for a whole host of reasons, starting with the obvious narcissistic tinges and moving on up to the this is not now, nor will it ever be a Hollywood movie reason. Well, anyway, one day, the handbasket of my marriage crumbled completely. Everything tumbled. all over the place. It was not pretty. It was a sprawling yard sale of bad blood and resentment and bad PR. Divorce is not for the weak of heart, and despite the dysfunctional wreck that my marriage had been, my heart was broken, and it was the darkest point in my life. But eventually, a couple years later, I was ready, and I hit the dating sites for real, as me this time, a 53-year-old single man with most of my teeth, most of my hair, a car, a job, and a mending heart. And I started my quest to find love again. And I wasn't alone. There are 110.6 million single adults in the United States today. Now, of that number, nearly half, 49.7 million, have tried online dating. It's a $1.9 billion industry. And it's accounted for 17% of last year's marriages. Not a huge number, but it's a lot bigger than the number that expresses the odds of winning the lottery. And I must admit, I do buy a Powerball ticket once in a while. So I figured, why not? Give it a try. Now, most of you have probably heard of Match.com, OkCupid, Tinder, maybe even eHarmony, JDate, or Christian Mingles. But there are 2,500 other dating sites out there right now, and more are being added every day. For example, for horse lovers, there's EquestrianCupid.com. For cat lovers, there's the wonderfully named Personals. Even those fine, simple folks who I thought lived an electricity-free life have a dating site. Or maybe you're into motorcycles. For you, there's BikerKiss.com. 2 wheels, 2 hearts, 1 road. I wonder if each paid subscription comes with this sentimental souvenir t-shirt? Seriously, what kind of clown would wear a t-shirt like that? And hypothetically, if that clown wanted to find a like-minded individual for happily ever after, where could they go? Oh wait, I know. ClownDating.com. As they say, everybody loves a clown. Let a clown love you. Now, maybe you're the kind of clown who works a lot of kids' birthday parties, eating pizza and drinking Hawaiian Punch, or maybe just the Hawaiian Punch and no pizza, in which case this site might be right up your alley. GlutenFreeSingles.com. Looks like a blast. This next site is yet another that I cleverly decided was not right for me. SeaCaptainDate.com. Because as they say in the site, sometimes a man needs a little more than a captain's wheel in his hands. As it turns out, SeaCaptainDate.com is one of the many joke sites out there. Fake sites put up to poke fun at this whole happy, sad enterprise. This next one, however, though perhaps the butt of many jokes, is actually dead serious. FarmersOnly.com. As the tagline so sweetly describes it, city folks just don't get it. Or maybe you like tall people, or Trekkies, or if you're in England, ugly people. Seriously. Uglybugball.com. Dating for the aesthetically average. Their words, not mine, and not a joke site. Or if you've got some kind of sexually transmitted disease, and 40% of the sexually active adult population does, there's STDmatch.net for singles who share your particular STD and where you meet for coffee or cocktail or maybe a little penicillin. For the more goth amongst us, there's VamPersonals.com. Anything you want, whatever strikes your fancy. There are dating sites for truckers or inmates or pot smokers, even for adults who like to wear diapers. And so on and so forth. 2,500 sites out there, and that's just the US. And these are just the sites dedicated to love. There are also scads of sites devoted specifically and exclusively to other, perhaps less traditionally romantic pursuits. There's ArrangementFinder.com, Adult Friend Finder, Ashley Madison, and for gay men, the evocatively named Grindr.com. I chose OkCupid, it's free. Also the free version of Match.com, and BBPeople.com for women who like a portly gent such as myself, and vice versa. And also Tinder, which is also free and should not be confused with Grindr, which is exactly what my 17-year-old daughter did one day. I was waiting to pick her up from work and was sitting in the car perusing the tiny upstate dating universe on Tinder when she suddenly appeared at the passenger door. The top was down and she got a decent enough look of the images on my little phone, and she says to me, "Is that Grindr?" Now, when you're a straight single dad looking at straight single women and you have 3 kids and you'd been married to their mother for 17 years and your eldest asks you if you're cruising a gay cruising hookup site, it's a rich psychological experience. First off, full tilt parental empathy. I imagined what she must be imagining right then. Secondly, I'd never really spoken to the kids about the divorce. It seemed their mom had filled them in a little with her story, and I had always hoped that one day they would realize there's probably another side of the story out there, my side. And now it all came rushing in. Nothing abhors a vacuum more than the rumor mill, and I had hitherto not filled that vacuum with the truth or with anything at all. And so now I imagined all the chips falling into place in her hormonally fucked up teenage mind. My side of the story, the untold side of the story, Daddy's gay. Oof. No, darling, I told her, it's not Grindr. That's for gay men. Daddy's not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's Tinder for straight people, mostly. I'm just looking for love. So I'd chosen a site or 2 or 10, dipped a big toe into the big pool of big promise, romance and love burbling just beneath the surface of the crystal clear waters of the blue lagoon d'Amour, pussycats and butterflies and sugar and spice. But first, the profile. All of the dating sites most of the dating sites require you to write a few bon mots about yourself. Easy peasy, right? You'd think so. But here's how so many of them begin. These are actual opening lines. I find it really hard to write about myself. I hate writing about myself. I can't stand writing about myself. I'm really bad at writing about myself. And finally, the ever so popular, my friends would say that I'm ... which actually seems like a pretty good way in. But people eventually do write about themselves. And here's a smattering of that writing from Tinder, where the profiles are generally simple or sometimes even non-existent. It's one of those dating sites that seems to say, substance be damned, all that really matters is the initial physical attraction. But people do still sometimes write stuff, and frequently it's hilarious. Take Brosquito, aged 29. He's everything your mother ever wanted you to date, and then some. Or Jake, one of my personal favorites. Here's how he describes his perfect date night. I pick you up in my Kia Sorento. You get in, there's candles in the car. You go, "Is that dangerous?" And I go, "Yes, but I like danger." We go to your favorite restaurant and we have a fantastic meal. We come outside and see my car's on fire. You go, "Jake, your car's on fire, aren't you upset?" I pull out a bag of marshmallows and I go, "No, I knew this was going to happen." And then I kiss you in front of my burning car. Jake, God bless him, total badass of the online dating profile, as is Glenn, though slightly more minimalistic and unicorny. Stay majestic, he says. Yes, Glenn, we will. And so most definitely will James. About James, I like long walks on the beach with my girlfriend until the LSD wears off and I realize I'm just dragging a stolen mannequin around a Wendy's parking lot. Nicholas, on the other hand, says he's just here looking for his parents who disappeared one night a few years ago, and he heard that he might be able to find them here. The bottle of syrup and the banana were evidently his idea. And finally, there's Pete. About Pete. Things you need to know about me. First off, if we go out, you're paying. Not just for me, but for my wife if she shows up, and she's a drinker. Sex is not guaranteed after that. If I'm interested, I'll place my underpants on the table, fold them in 3 and place in your handbag. Return them washed and we will consummate passionately. I dislike women who aren't shallow. A plus if you wear my mom's perfume and fit perfectly into the void she left. I'm 6 foot and 4 inches. Those are 2 measurements. Okay, so maybe the guys aren't much help, but there's probably a bunch of guidance about how to write a good profile from the women out there, right? Becky, maybe not so helpful since I'm not on the grinder thing. Jess looks normalish. Oh, she's a puppy enthusiast and frozen yogurt connoisseur, flying the flag for Ireland, Dallas. And here's the part I love best. She's outdoorsy in the sense that she likes to get drunk on patios. All right, Jess, stay majestic. Maybe Shannon. Like many of us, she's a constant work in progress, not who I used to be, but every day is one day closer to what, who, and where I want to be. Actually, kind of a beautiful sentiment, even if her costume leaves something to be desired, or maybe, depending, just nothing more to be desired. And so you flip through the profiles that are out there, looking for guidance, and trying not to feel superior, because now you're here with these people in this place. It's no longer them over there and you over here. Now it's only us, the whole bunch of us. And as this thought starts to sink in, like a sinkhole of self-esteem, an enormous psychic whooshing noise begins to happen. And it's the noise that your pride makes as it's leaving the room and getting sucked into the black hole of begging for love in a public space. And so you bite the bullet and put pen to paper. It's your turn now, or my turn, as the case may be. Fingers on keyboard, and you start writing and thinking about what kind of profile yours is going to be, and your mind wanders and your fingers don't. And as you're thinking, you realize that most profiles kind of fit into one of three main categories. The first is defining what you do not want, often while simultaneously tipping your hat to the evidently enduring damage inflicted upon you by your last relationship. I am not looking for a man who's going to lie to my face and run around behind my back with my best friend. I'm not looking for a long-term relationship, but also most definitely not looking for a hookup. I'm not looking for a lazy, bond-trading asshole who won't lift a finger around the house. Next category is the activity bomb. I'm into visiting museums and fine dining, hiking, biking, and spelunking. I love traveling to new places and trying new food and climbing volcanoes and scuba diving the Great Barrier Reef. I speak 3 languages fluently and 4 others proficiently. I've got a PhD in ancient Peruvian studies and have climbed Machu Picchu 6 times. Is it 7? I love to cook and read and take care of myself. I wouldn't say I'm a gym rat, but I do make it there at least 6 times a week if I'm not taking part in one of my monthly triathlons. I love to read a couple of books a week and really enjoy my demanding job as a thoracic surgeon and raising my 4 kids and 3 AKC registered cockapoo agility dogs. In my free time, I golf and play tennis and work in my side business, deconstructing antique Dutch barns and selling, shipping, and reconstructing them for wealthy families in the Middle East. Also, I like to knit and take long walks on the beach. There's actually a lot more of these profiles out here than you'd imagined. The last main category of profile is the romantic. Many of them are looking for someone to complete me, which always seemed like kind of a red flag. Many have raised kids and are now looking for someone to share their golden years with. But by and large, it's just people looking for love. It's sweet and sad and touching, and I guessed as I was procrastinating that first night that this was the kind of profile that mine was going to be. So my fingers started typing again, this time with more understanding and with a renewed determination. And then I stop again. Like so many others before me, my prideful certainty that I could nail this thing now wilting away and becoming a completely flaccid mind. The tyranny of the blank profile page. Okay, come on. Fingers on keys and just do it. So I did. And here is the profile I eventually came up with. Lately, I feel like a big ball of contradictions. Maybe that's how I am all the time. I would love to meet someone to spend the rest of my life with, but I really want to be single right now. I'm just about the steadiest person you'd ever want to meet, but I can also be mercurial. I've spent most of my adult life being guided by my intellect, and now I'm trying to let my heart guide me more. Now, at this point, a friend said, "Dude, sounds like you just want to hook up. Your profile sounds like code for looking for sex, not a commitment." And I'm all like, what? I was so open and honest and frank. How could that be? And besides, that's not what I'm looking for at all. So I scrapped it and started again. Norm's dating profile, take 2. Slow, slow, slow. I want to go super slowly, and I also want to be swept right off my feet and jump right in. Is that so wrong? I want someone who is going to work as hard as I will toward the attainment of our mutual dreams. I want someone kind and caring, someone who will give as well as they'll get. I want someone to cook for and share a cocktail or a bottle of wine with. I want someone who has the hard context to understand how badly the middle school band is butchering Brahms, and the tender heart to know that there is no more beautiful noise in the universe. I really want to wake up next to someone every morning and thank my lucky stars that I am there next to that wonderful human. I want someone to look up to, and I want someone who can admire me too. I want them to always expect the best from me, despite the fact that there will be times, regretfully, when I'll fall short on delivering. I want someone who is just as crazy as can be, but who understands and sees it clearly and owns up to every single part of their crazy. I've done a lot of work trying to better understand why I am how I am, and I want someone who has done the same. And last, but by no means least, I need someone who connects the dots of the world around them in an interesting way. Learning and discovering and creating bring me a lot of joy, and I need someone on that same path. Okay. Innocuous enough, right? Done. Read it a million times, revised it at the wazoo, bounced it off of a few more friends, and that one friend in particular, to make sure it's not creepy or even worse, boring, and then click submit. But no. First, the site asks, don't you want to include some photos of yourself? So once again, I go back to the other dating sites to see what other people do, look for the unwritten rules, so to speak, on how to do this part of it. Now, if you're a woman, the rules seem pretty clear. First, make sure you include a photo of you doing yoga in a room or on a mountaintop or on your patio or anywhere scenic, maybe even, I don't know, in front of a body of water. Secondly, if you're over 50 especially, make sure you use one of those adorably mature Snapchat filters. And if you're a guy, be sure to include a photo of you with your muscle car or at the gym or with kittens, true story, or with your motorcycle, but whatever you do, be certain to include a picture of you holding a fish. The bigger, the better. I don't have a motorcycle or go to the gym or fish, so I put in a couple of pictures of me at the museum. One taken by a friend and one taken by my kid. Seemed about right. And now I was ready to roll. I submitted my stuff. Oh my God, so hopeful. I just subscribed to a whole new universe of romantic possibility, and I let out a big sigh of, what? Your profile has been submitted for approval to our standards and Internet Safety Department. As soon as it has been approved, you can begin finding your perfect match. This process usually takes less than an hour, but could take up to 24 hours? Seriously? What the fuck? Now I have to wait? But I want to peruse profiles of sweet singles right now. I want to fall in love right this second, damn it. Turns out that one of the reasons you have to wait is that some of these sites do the teeniest amount of diligence on you due to the large amount of scams perpetrated online, especially on online dating sites. But once the wait is over, in my case, it turned out to only be a matter of minutes. It's Swipe City and you're the mayor. So when you swipe left, it's a no, fairly definitive, not even a no thank you, a definite no. On some dating sites, that simple act or its equivalent might ensure that the other person will never be aware of your existence. On others, they can still see you and reach out to you. But on all of the sites, in one way or another, connections can be made. A couple of likes, a couple of winks or thumbs up, a couple of swipes to the right, and blammo, a connection has been made. And all of a sudden, the picture in the profile on the other end is not just an abstraction. It's a real human being, flesh and blood and hopes and fears, waiting just like you for what's next, for what might be next. So now what? Now what do you say? What's your come on? How much do you want to put out there? How much do you want to share? What if they don't like your message? What if it's dumb, or worse, you accidentally use poor grammar? All the insecurities burble up to the surface, but now, again, is a time to act. A time to put your fingers to the keyboard and say something witty or wonderful or wise. Break the ice, break through the clutter, break open your natural protective shell and share something authentic and real and true, but not creepy and hookup-y. The opening salvo. Here, collected for your viewing pleasure from the World Wide Web, are some of the most famous or infamous openings ever, minus the really explicit ones and the ones with unsolicited dick pics. They range from the kind of sweet to the kind of dopey to the kind of bizarre. Sometimes when I'm lonely, I go to the store, then I buy all the marinara sauce, then I go home and fill up the bathtub. I slowly submerge myself into the sauce and then curl up and pretend I'm a meatball. Anyways, that's just a little bit about me. How about you? Some of them are self-aware. This one. And this one. Some of them not so much. Disobedient avocado. Some of them are the verbal equivalent of dick pics. This one. And this one. And some of them are downright abusive. Some of them exhibit a deep existential malaise that just can't be solved by looking for love on online dating sites. But somewhere down this path, sometimes some things actually do go well. And the opening line works, and chit-chat and curiosity turn into more curiosity for more chit-chat in person. So you've been getting to know someone through their profile and through the text channel on the dating site and through stalking them on Instagram and Facebook, and maybe even becoming actual Facebook friends, and maybe even taking the whole exchange off of all those chat channels and onto text, and eventually actual old school phone calls, voice to voice, or even video chats. But now it's time to meet. Time to see if this strange, intangible thing called chemistry exists or not between you and this stranger you met online. Chemistry, it's such a strange thing. It's a communication down below the level of the conscious mind, down there on a molecular level. Are your pheromones compatible? Is the dopamine flowing? Are androstenone, androstenol, and androstenedione present? Oh, baby, they better be. Because without all of that shit, there's no zing. And without the zing, there's really no point in going on, right? And this is one of the major points of meeting face to face. And people talk about it quite candidly on these sites to see if you click in this way, to see if there's that fuck yeah feeling that makes you lose sight of everything else in the universe except for your desire to get to know this person better. I had a meeting a couple years ago. It was a woman, 10 or 12 years older than me. Her pictures were amazing. A gorgeous shock of white gray hair, fashionably cut, cool clothes, and a profile that made me think we could really be compatible. At the time, I was 54 and she was 66, and we mutually liked each other on okcupid.com and struck up a conversation, and it was great. At one point, she joked that she'd go out with me, but I had to promise I wouldn't hit on her daughters, which I thought was kind of funny. But my search criteria at the time was for women 40 to 66, and her daughters were both pretty close to that range, and so I promised her that I would not, indeed, try to date her daughters. And a meeting time was decided upon, 6 p.m. at Cucina, a sweet little Italian place over there in Woodstock with a nice marble and dark wood bar. I told her that I only had an hour. which is a very good strategy for first meetings in case they are uncomfortable or boring or there's actually reverse chemistry. Anyway, the time of our date grows near and I get a text from her saying that she's going to be a little bit late, 10 or 15 minutes late. Fine, no problem. So I wait at the bar, just me and a boisterous young couple of hipsters and one of the two dentists in town named Bruce, who always sits deep in the corner at the end of the bar and minds his own business and becomes sweetly snockered and doesn't bother us all. And I explained to the bartender that I'm only going to have water until my friend comes, and I'm sure he knows exactly what's going on and what I'm doing there and is secretly judging me for it, but whatever. So I wait and I wait a little longer and she's still not there. Finally at 6:30 I order a drink. A perfect Manhattan with whatever rye whiskey they have and a couple of extra cherries, because I like cherries. And I'm keeping my eye on the door and the clock, and at 6:35, she finally rolls in, and I barely recognize her. Her profile pictures must have been from a couple of decades ago. Okay, I think still, you all hit it off online. Maybe there's a nice connection that could be made in person. So she sits down and I order her a drink, and I note that I really do have to leave, as previously mentioned, nearish to 7 p.m. Oh, that figures, she says, and proceeds to tell me why she was late. She had slipped on a part of the tiled kitchen floor that was notoriously slippery and had dropped a ceramic vase with old peonies and stinky flower water and had to clean it all up before she left. And if her asshole husband had fixed the floor before she had kicked him out of the house, none of this shit ever would have fucking happened. Asshole husband? We hadn't discussed that in our lighthearted OkCupid chat windows. She proceeded to tell me all about how callous and horrible and selfish and absent and awful her ex had been in excruciating detail, on and on and on ad nauseum. So I thought I'd change the subject and see if maybe she could be a little less negative. And I brought up her daughters. Innocently, of course, gingerly even. Do they live nearby? What kind of work do they do? That kind of stuff. And she says they're okay. One's in Brooklyn, one is nearby. And they have okay careers and are happy enough considering how horrible her lousy ex had been. What a lazy, conniving, rich, bond trading asshole. And she launches in again. Well, now, I'm not totally down with Miss Manners and Emily Post and all that etiquette stuff, but one of the things I do know is that it's rude to check your watch when you're in a meeting or on a date, even if you're on a date with a bitter septuagenarian. But I did, I checked, and it was, mercifully, 6:53. And I waited for a tiny pause in the litany of insults being hurled at her ex. I knew she would have to draw a breath at some point so she could continue the berating. And when she did, I mentioned that I had mentioned before that I really needed to be somewhere else to pick up my kid at 7. I asked her if she wanted me to walk her to her car, but she said no, she'd stay and finish her lemon thyme martini, from which she had barely taken a sip, what with all the excitement of bad-mouthing her ex and all to this guy she had just met through an online dating site. So I paid the bill. I slipped out the door with a glance back to the bar where she had picked up her coat and drink and was wandering down toward the poor, sweet dentist named Bruce, who was enjoying his habitual solitude in his habitual corner seat, from which escape would be difficult, if not impossible. And I started thinking about this whole pursuit, how strange and perverse and effective it all was. 17%, I could handle odds like that. And evidently so could millions and millions of other mostly single people. But a meeting with Franny kind of stuck with me. And I took some time off of the dating sites, the addictive and incessant swiping and chatting and hoping and maybe meeting that was really not getting me any closer to where I'd dreamed of being. When I finally did go back on, after a long and thoughtful break of almost 3 whole days, one of the first things I saw was this. And it kind of struck me and stuck with me, and I thought about it, and I thought long and hard about what barriers I might have constructed in myself against finding love. Honestly, I couldn't think of any other than the one that 2 separate female friends had told me individually that I needed to really understand that I am worthy, that I am worthy of being loved. And it's a hard thing to wrap your mind around when, in fact, you kind of do feel worthy already. But two people who knew me well both mentioned it independently, so I tried to feel worthy, more worthy. I took a hard look at myself and how I'd been, and I tried to see the signs that I might have missed before, and I tried to feel in my heart that despite everything and anything that might point to the contrary conclusion, I really was worthy. Well, at least as much as everyone else. All of us worthy in our own deeply imperfect ways. And so I revised my profile a little, and I freshened up my profile pics a little bit, and I tried again. And it was nice again. And apart from this one sad and amusing tale of dating woe with Franny, most of my online and in-person exploits have been wonderful. I've made a bunch of new friends, some of whom have shared good insights with me, had a few romances, and a whole mess of adventures, most of them not too shabby for a 59-year-old guy with most of my teeth, most of my hair, a car, a job, and a mostly mended heart. The deal is this. In the end, I like people. I like meeting new people and talking with them and asking them a million questions and getting to know them and who they are and what they do and what they were before and what they want to be next, all of it. And if the person I'm meeting is an attractive woman, and you mostly kind of know that if you already met online, well, that just makes it even better. And if at the end of that meeting, after chit-chat and chemistry and coffee or cocktails, there's a chance for a kiss or a romance or any of the pleasures that are to be found down that path, forget about it. Home run. One of the best things you can do. And so I kept doing it. And as it happens, in the end, I did meet a wonderful woman. More wonderful than I'd ever imagined, and more wonderful perhaps than I actually deserve. No, wait. Exactly as wonderful as I deserve, exactly as wonderful as I am worthy of. But here's the funny part. We didn't meet on a dating site. We met the old-fashioned way, through mutual friends on Facebook. Thank you.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Someday we'll get it together and we'll get it undone. Someday when your head is much lighter. Someday walk in the rays of a beautiful sun. Someday when the world was much brighter.